Okay, what the heck is going on in Washington, D.C.? Now we have the CIA, they shot a woman in a security incident, we'll dig into that, just hours after the D.C. Jewish Museum shooting. Okay, let's dig into this. Okay, so just so you guys are aware, information is extremely limited. Obviously, it's the CIA, but here's what we know. A female driver was shot at CIA headquarters early Thursday in what the agency called a security incident, which is the most CIA thing I've ever heard, after she refused to follow commands at a checkpoint, according to law enforcement sources and local police. The non-fatal shooting occurred before 4 a.m. outside the agency's main gated entrance in McLean, Virginia, a Fairfax County Police Department spokesperson confirmed. Fairfax County Police Department officers are currently in the area providing traffic support while the CIA conducts its investigation. And this is literally all we know. Again, it's the most CIA thing we've ever heard. Yeah, there was a security incident. They didn't even report that a woman showed up. This is coming from the police department who was in the area. Now, to show you how non-transparent the CIA is being, all they've said was the front gate at headquarters is closed until further notice. Please use alternate routes for Thursday, May 22nd, and that is it. I went through their whole X account, absolutely nothing else. The front gate is closed, go somewhere else. Now, I also want to point out, when it comes to Washington news, there's a lot going on. So it looks like this story is really just going to fly right under the radar. Because again, this did happen just hours after the D.C. Jewish Museum. We'll get to that in a second. But also, Republicans finally passed the big, beautiful bill as it's being deemed. So again, this you would think would be the biggest headline, but in terms of the news cycle, this is coming in dead last because we don't know too much about it. I can hardly even find almost any video coverage about this as well.
Approximately 9:08 p.m. tonight, we received multiple calls for a shooting in the area of 3rd Street and F Street Northwest. Officers located one adult male and one adult female unconscious and not breathing at the scene. DC Fire and EMS responded, and despite all life-saving efforts, both victims succumbed to their injuries. The preliminary investigation indicates that both victims were exiting an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum located in the 500 block of 3rd Street Northwest when the shooting occurred. We believe the shooting was committed by a single suspect who is now in custody. Prior to the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense. The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody. The suspect has been tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois. Our MPD case detectives are leading this investigation.
Now, Stephen Miller is not holding back. Obviously, he is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Police and Homeland Security Advisor. Here's what he says. There is a growing cancer of far-left domestic terrorism. Now, interesting enough, all over the internet, it's circulating. If you go to this Liberation publication, you can actually see the man who did the shooting at the Jewish Museum spotted right here. So already independent journalists and investigators were able to find this guy.
Can you give us any sense of what you saw in him as he was sort of getting help and people were tending to him as if he too was a victim of seeing this?
Yeah, just to be clear, I heard about that part because we were in the secure room when he initially walked in. I just saw him screaming and then being handcuffed. But what I saw in his eyes, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But they did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission. And they've called for this. They have called for Intifada revolution, which is the same thing he yelled last night.
Do you worry that there will be a conflation, though, of the two, those people who are speaking their mind, who really care about what is happening in Gaza, and those people who are like this person who did this horrific shooting, who intend to do harm.
A conflation. I mean, they are calling for intifada. At Columbia University, they call for intifada constantly. They're not quietly, they're loud. They're loud. You can hear it. They make recordings of themselves. So what's the difference?
Are you afraid?
Yes.
What will
We're
you do
all
about
afraid.
that?
Everyone should be afraid.
Okay, so right now in the media, you have a massive divide. You have the side of, look, this man is clearly anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, that's why he went after us. We know he's in these Palestinian groups. On the flip side, you have, well, he was just a rogue protester. He has nothing to do with these other protesters. In fact, check this clip out. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys all sides of the story so you can leave your opinions down below.
He has what we seem to know at this stage is he has no criminal record. He has been part of the pro-Palestinian protests in the Chicago area, but apparently, according to the records, not arrested in those protests. And they'll be looking to figure out his social media, his computers. They're going to want to see, was he inspired by a particular website to go and allegedly commit this act of violence? Was he in touch with other people? Did anybody else know? One of the things they're looking at, according to law enforcement sources, is a manifesto that they believe is likely written by him, which explains that he's been a part of the protest movement, was becoming frustrated as the body counts in Gaza continued to rise, and the protests seemed to not be having any market effect, and that this was, he said, in a funny way, a crazy thing to do, but it was the right thing to do, foreshadowing this act. It's something they're still examining, but they believe it is more likely legitimate.
So as you can see, the complication with this case is going to be pretty intense, considering not even from Washington, D.C., so now we got to go all the way to Chicago, try and figure out what's going on there. There is a manifesto where, in a sense, he is telling everybody what he's going to do, but it doesn't mean he's going to do it. Not previously known to the police. In a lot of these cases, the police either know about you, especially if you write some crazy stuff on the internet, or you do things above and beyond at these protests. Maybe you shatter a window and you've been arrested before. Now you are known to the police, but he has absolutely nothing. One thing I also want to point out, he is the sole shooter. That to me shows, when you look at all of this evidence, it's going to be a little more difficult to tie him to some sort of organization. I will not deny there is obviously some influence or impacts in the Middle East. He is admitting that in this manifesto. He was screaming Free Palestine. But as far as trying to get the entire group in trouble, it's difficult in the United States. You have the right to protest, you have the right to freedom of speech, but you don't have the right to do what this guy did.
On extremism monitors extremist groups like the Party of Socialism and Liberation, or PSL, that this man was associated with. He was associated with another, that is an anti-capitalist, anti-Western, and anti-Zionist group which regularly employs anti-Semitic rhetoric. So we know PSL. And look, there are extremists on all sides. The fringes seem to be incredibly empowered today. But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hassan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
Now, we're about to go into the right media space as far as Fox News is concerned. They're very, very upset about this, but I want to say this. There is a common theme throughout the board, whether CNN, MSNBC, it doesn't matter. Everybody condemns what the shooter did. However, the divide is we condemn him, but do we loop in all the other protesters? Because you're allowed to protest and you're allowed to be anti-war, but the question is, did their influence cause him to do that? Thus, they are also the perpetrators? That's the main question. But Fox News is going after one congresswoman. In fact, a lot of people are very upset with her.
Congresswoman Omar,
Anybody safe?
can I get your reaction to the shooting that happened in D.C. last night?
I'm going to go for now.
I'm going to go for now, Mark. Couldn't even say condolences for the family.
Yeah, because she's an Islamist. Let's stop playing games. She's an Islamist who got elected to Congress as part of what Donald Trump calls the enemy within. It's time to take our mittens off and do a reality. She's an Islamist. Tlaib is an Islamist. Bernie Sanders is a Marxist. I dare them to sue me. I dare them to sue me. I will counterclaim. I will get all the information I need. I will expose these people in civil court because they cannot be exposed criminally. I will do it myself if I have to. This is the enemy within. Our media, some of it's bought and paid for, some of it's not, day after day, spewing the Hamas propaganda about casualties. Even Hamas amended the casualties, and they're still spewing the casualties. There are Jews that are still in tunnels in Gaza. Who put them there? Who attacked Israel on October 6th? Free Palestine. They had their own country. It's called Gaza. What they mean by free Palestine is destroy the Jews.
Okay, so back to square one. As you can see, things are not looking too good in Washington, D.C. This is probably going to be the main news story for a while now, but unfortunately, this is going to be another divider amongst Americans, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for being here. God bless, and we'll see you all later.